If the Honourable Finance Minister and the government wish to spend 3,25,756 crore, we understand that there is a need for more expenditure. Now, where will the government find this 3,25,756 crore?
In September itself, Government of India has made it very clear that we are not changing our borrowing schedule, which gets announced. And in September, we announced for the second half year. We have not changed our borrowing plans, which means we are very clear that we are going to see that the revenue that we are generating is sufficient to take care of this additional. Because, for instance, sir, during the first 7 months, April to October, of the current FY, gross tax receipts have registered a growth of about 18% over the previous year, actual for that period. This is substantially higher, sir, than the budget growth of 9.6 over RE of last year. So there's enough buoyancy which gives me the confidence that we will be able to fund this supplementary that we have come up with the demands.
The corporates contributed 34% of gross tax revenue. Today, the corporates are contributing 26% of gross tax revenue. Why has this great benefit been conferred to the corporates that they contribute 8% less of the gross tax revenue?
So I would want to just highlight a few facts. So in 1994, under Dr. Manmohan Singh, the corporate tax was cut to 40% from then prevailing 45%. Then in 1997, sir, the then finance minister, who honorable member is here now, Shri P. Chidambaram ji, brought the corporate tax down to 35% from 40%, after also abolishing the surcharge. Then from 2000 onwards, surcharges were back, raising the total corporate tax again to about 36 to 38%, which continued for the next 5 years after that. But then it was Mr. Chidambaram again who reduced the corporate tax to 30% in 2005, although along with the surcharge, the actual rate was about 33%. Were they bonanza to corporates also? Were they bonanzas at that time? So if that is bonanza at that time, bonanza now, it is not. Because we think when you reduce the corporate tax, and especially post the 2014 situation that we've been monitoring, getting the banks to be healthier, getting the economy to come back after being in fragile 5 situation, the twin balance sheet problems where companies were laden with debt and so on. Cutting down the corporate tax was only following some of those measures, which is important for business to grow in India, manufacturing to grow in India.
Will you be able to double the GDP which you inherited by the time you demit office in 10 years?
So, Indian economy certainly witnessed an average growth of 6.6 from 2014-15 to 19-20. But these 10 years will have to also be looked at, particularly the last 5 years will have to be looked at from the point of view of COVID as well, where 1 full year we had to get into negative terrain as a result of the way in which globally all economies were thrown, hither, thither, and the lockdown and so on. So, despite that, I can only say that we are somewhere very close to doubling it. We still have 1.5 years to go for completing the 10 years, but that is something which I want to draw your attention to.
Does the government take into account reckon the fact that the world's leading countries are heading towards a recession? How do you propose to deal with the situation?
I would like to just highlight that global economies, many of them, large developed economies as well, are facing recession. Because I think the way in which they handled the COVID, as different from the way in which we have handled COVID in India. Because the tendency was we should give money in the hands of the people, go printing notes, and here I would like to quote former finance minister saying, borrow and spend, and even print money to reboot the economy, was a suggestion given by the Honorable former finance minister. As we close the calendar year 2022, we should look at the negative effect of the implementation of such a suggestion by the other countries. And recession is happening there, perhaps. And thankfully, because of the targeted way in which Honorable Prime Minister decided to give relief during COVID and address the concerns as was given as inputs from the various stakeholders, a targeted approach has kept us on the safe course of helping revival but not getting into recession. And multiple times both the IMF and the World Bank have said in several occasions, India is the brightest spot in the global economy and is an island of hope for global growth. So I just want to highlight the fact that real GDP growth and doubling of it is certainly a good indicator for which any government should work. But the way in which we have handled during COVID has kept us away from recession, whereas those who followed certain common principles, which was heard as advice given here also, have gone into recession.